Coming up next on the Rockbridge Report, President Trump's impeachment trial is almost at the end of its third day. Impeachment managers broke down the president's comments. We'll show you what was going on inside the Capitol while the president was speaking. And a look at President Biden's transportation and back-to-school plans and how it will affect you. Later in the show, Andrew Arnold will tell you about what is expected to be another weekend of wintry weather. From Super Bowl trophies being thrown from a boat to the return of local sports, Sean Lee will show us what sports are coming back and when. All that and more next on the Rockbridge Report.
Live from the campus of Washington and Lee University with news from Rockbridge County, this is the Rockbridge Report.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Shauna Muckle. Later I'll be joined by my co-anchor, Jack Hunter. Andrew Arnold has updates on weather, and Sean Lee will give us the latest in sports. The third day of former President Trump's impeachment trial is underway on Capitol Hill. CNN's Nadia Romero shows us the evidence impeachment managers presented today.
House impeachment managers finishing their arguments against former President Donald Trump.
This was not a hidden crime.
A day after showing chilling video of the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol. Prosecutors on their final day explaining why they believe Trump incited the insurrection.
We were invited by the President of the United States!
Their own statements before, during, and after the attack make clear the attack was done for Donald Trump, at his instructions, and to fulfill his wishes.
He intended the events of January 6th to happen, and when it did, he delighted in it.
President Trump declared his conduct totally appropriate.
President Trump's lack of remorse and refusal to take accountability after the attack poses its own unique and continuing danger. I'm not afraid of Donald Trump running again in 4 years. I'm afraid he's going to run again and lose, because he can do this again.
Despite the disturbing video evidence presented during the course of this trial, many Republicans remain unswayed and are expected to acquit the former president.
The not guilty vote is growing.
Trump's team will respond to the House's case on Friday.
The tragedy that happened here at the Capitol, lives lost, that had nothing whatsoever to do with President Trump, but they want you to believe that it did.
President Trump's defense team is expected to finish its arguments Friday. They are not expected to use the full 16 hours allotted. The U.S. has recorded its lowest daily coronavirus case count in 3 months. That may be good news, but we're not out of the woods yet. CNN's Erica Hill explains.
Fewer new cases, fewer COVID patients in the hospital, more shots in arms. Can these trends last?
Things are better, but baby, it ain't over yet, not by a long shot.
Swift-moving variants now identified in more than 30 states.
The continued proliferation of variants remains of great concern and is a threat that could reverse the recent positive trends we are seeing.
The CDC says it's stepping up tracking efforts.
What we need to do as quickly as possible is obviously vaccinate the American people.
So far, current vaccines appear to be effective against the variant first identified in the UK.
Less so against the South African, the 351. But hopefully we will get the virus under much better control by the time there's any indication that might become dominant.
The overall pace of vaccinations is improving.
Saturday was a remarkable day. We had 1.8 million vaccines administered in the United States. If we can do that every single day, then we'll stay ahead of this.
72% of distributed doses now in arms. More than 9.5 million people fully vaccinated. New York's Citi Field set to open as another mass vaccination site Wednesday morning, with a focus on taxi drivers and food service and delivery workers.
These are folks who we all depend on.
Average daily reported deaths stuck above 3,000 and rising in 9 states.
What we're really seeing is still the aftermath of the winter holidays, of Christmas and New Year's. So it's 6 to 8 weeks later, people are dying from the disease.
Texas Representative Ron Wright, the first sitting member of Congress to die after being diagnosed with the virus, passed away on Sunday. Wright was 67. More states easing restrictions, no more mask mandate in Iowa, despite top experts urging otherwise.
We really need to keep all of the mitigation measures at play here if we're really going to get control of this pandemic.
In Tampa, Super Bowl fans partying like it's 2019. The CDC promising new guidelines for schools this week. And after a weeks-long standoff, a tentative agreement to get teachers and kids back to the classroom.
I am confident that the measures that we have and will put in place will make our schools even safer than they already are and will be a model for other systems in Illinois and throughout the country.
The CDC reports 66 million doses have been administered to the states, and more than 11 million people have been vaccinated so far. Dr. Fauci most recently stated the country will need 75% of citizens vaccinated to reach herd immunity. Critics are accusing President Joe Biden of backpedaling on his pledge to reopen the nation's schools, after the White House added fine print to his promise and made clear that a full reopening is still far from sight. Biden's initial pledge in December was to reopen, quote, the majority of our schools in his first 100 days in office. In January, he specified that the goal applied only to schools that teach through 8th grade. And this week, the White House said that schools will be considered opened as long as they teach in person at least one day a week. New data from the CDC shows that double masking significantly helps prevent the spread of the coronavirus. CNN's Meredith Wood has the details.
The CDC is officially endorsing doubling up your face masks. After months of calls for updated mask guidance, a study shows double masking is more than 92% effective in improving protection against the spread of COVID-19.
This includes wearing a mask with a moldable nose wire, knotting the ear loops on your mask, or wearing a cloth mask over a procedure or disposable mask.
The CDC is also updating recommendations on types of masks you should wear and how they should fit.
There are also new options available to consumers called mask fitters, small reusable devices that cinch a cloth or medical mask and that can create a tighter fit against the face and thus improve mask performance.
This as vaccination ramps up across America, with more than 44 million doses having been administered, and more vaccination sites popping up across the nation, like the mass vaccination site at Citi Field in New York City.
Vaccination is the key to our recovery. So we start here at Citi Field, but we're going to build up. Starts as a few days a week, then it's going to 7 days a week to 24/7. By next week, we'll be able to do 4,000 doses a week at this site.
I'm Meredith Wood reporting.
President Biden is hoping an initiative to build roads and bridges can bridge the gap between Democrats and Republicans. Biden met with lawmakers from both parties at the White House to discuss infrastructure today, even as the Senate is holding impeachment proceedings against former President Donald Trump, where partisan divisions are on full display. The president specifically mentioned the potential for projects in the states of the senators attending the meeting, signaling that lawmakers might be willing to cooperate in order to make their voters' lives better. Coming up next on the Rockbridge Report, reporter Shefali Khanda will tell us about a new shop opening downtown with an unusual inventory. And later, Felicity Taylor will show us how a new national trend invaded an online school board meeting in Buena Vista. All that and more coming up next on the Rockbridge Report.
It's no joke out here, guys. Be sure to remember your jacket. I'm Andrew Arnold, and more on what you can expect coming up this weekend and my weather update at 5.
Welcome back to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Jack Hunter. Shoppers in downtown Lexington can now try out CBD, an over-the-counter ingredient in marijuana, at the new Hemp Store on West Washington Street. The Rockbridge Report's Shefali Khanda joins us now live outside of the new store. Shefali?
Thanks, Jack. I'm here outside Shenandoah Hemp Supply. The store's been open for 6 months. Despite the economic effects of the pandemic, the owners say they're positive that Lexington shoppers will love their locally sourced CBD products.
Lee McGalis co-owns the store with his wife, Amber.
He says he was inspired to sell CBD products by his research with epilepsy patients as a technician in the University of Virginia's neurology department. He found that CBD helped to control seizures and reduce body pains. In 2018, the Virginia General Assembly legalized the growing and selling of hemp commercially. The couple opened their first location in Waynesboro a year and a half ago.
As far back as I've worked there, really, and I've been there about going on 7 years now, there have been patients who've come in who have talked about treating their epilepsy using cannabis.
Michaela says that everything clicked into place when the bill passed.
It was just kind of a perfect storm of a bunch of stuff happening where I had this thing that I was very interested in. Suddenly now it's, commercially viable to do it.
CBD is derived from the hemp plant. It has more medicinal benefits than marijuana and helps users focus better. Michaela says they sell all types of CBD products, including CBD gummies, CBD oils, hemp paper, and hemp seed food. Jackson Shaner grows CBD in his greenhouse for the store. He says he used CBD after a hip replacement surgery left him in pain.
I had this constant throbbing, pounding pain, and within about 30, 40 minutes, that throbbing, that pounding pain, it would subside.
But COVID-19 has complicated business. Their other location in Harrisonburg had to close down for a few months in the summer because of the lack of foot traffic. But the couple chose to open the Lexington store in the middle of the pandemic.
We kind of continued to risk it all. Even though COVID was happening, we just dug in deeper.
Michaela says they've adapted by developing an online presence and adding free shipping to their website. Michaela says that he wants to expand the store into a dispensary if marijuana becomes legal. From the Rockbridge Report, I'm Shefali Konda.
Local governments and businesses have taken to Zoom to conduct online public meetings. School systems have the extra task of using virtual learning platforms. And sometimes, as one area school division learned recently, basic meeting security should not be overlooked. Felicity Taylor reports.
The COVID pandemic-induced phenomenon of Zoom bombing has hit the Rockbridge area. Unwanted participants, called Zoom bombers, hijacked a public meeting of the Buena Vista School Board 2 weeks ago. The Zoom bombers also shared racially insensitive comments in the text-based chat box. People who attended the meeting in person didn't realize what was happening. Perry McClure High School principal Karen Cobb was there in person. She had no idea there was a breach. She said Buena Vista Public School Systems Director of Technology Donna Frazier must have handled it.
And that's probably why we haven't heard about it, because they just do a good job with that and making sure that we're secure at all times.
Officials at the K-12 schools in the Rockbridge area say they prefer to use Google Classroom and Google Meet for day-to-day functioning. Zoom is the most advanced platform for public meetings. Christina Ramsey runs virtual meetings for the city of Buena Vista. She says the city has not had any security issues in virtual meetings held by city council and its committees.
For public comments, if anyone wants to participate, they'll have to either send a message to the host of the meeting or send an email prior to the meeting.
Director of Technology and Human Resources, Jason Kirby, says Rockbridge County Public Schools enhance security for school board meetings by using the Zoom webinar function. It requires public participants to sign up beforehand and send in their comments by email.
I'd love to take credit for it, but I think I got it from Charlottesville or maybe Harrisonburg. I'm not sure which one, but they started doing it, and I'm like, that's a great idea. It gives you the control back.
Rockbridge County pays an annual fee for a Zoom account with webinar capabilities for all school and government meetings. Kirby says the $1,400 cost for a 500 participant webinar is the best protection and worth it. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Felicity Taylor.
The Virginia House and Senate have unveiled their proposed amendments to the 2-year state budget, with differences that must be worked out before the legislation can be sent to the governor. Each chamber advanced its own spending plan out of committee Wednesday. Among the differences in the measures, both the House and Senate would give state workers a raise, but they vary on the amount. The House version also contains money for a measure providing sick leave for essential workers. That bill's fate in the Senate remains unclear. Coming up next on the Rockbridge Report, we'll let you know if you need to bundle up this weekend. And later, Sean Lee breaks down this week in sports.
Welcome back to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Andrew Arnold. This week started with below freezing temperatures for nearly 200 million people on Monday. Now, there are winter weather alerts and an ice storm warning stretching more than 1,000 miles of the U.S. And as CNN's Britt Conway reports, don't expect the cold to go anywhere anytime soon.
Looks like Punxsutawney Phil might have been right. It seems winter isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and definitely not this week. Tens of millions of people stretching 1,200 miles from Texas to New Jersey are under some kind of winter weather alert. And look at this in purple, ice. Multiple states are under an ice storm warning.
The biggest concern is the amount of ice that is forecast here. Parts of Arkansas, south central Arkansas, parts of central and southern areas of Kentucky there. That's where we could see the highest amounts exceeding 1/4 of an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch.
Along with West Tennessee, southeast Missouri, and the southern tip of Illinois. But Kentucky seems to be taking the brunt of it so far.
That's the area of interest that we're watching very carefully here. And of course, any of those suburban communities, the wooded areas, we know trees can easily come down with that amount of ice.
It could also be dangerous to drive. There could be widespread power outages, and there might be airport delays and cancellations. The Kentucky National Weather Service worries this could be, quote, one of the worst weeks for winter weather in eastern Kentucky in over a decade. And some vaccination sites in the state have shut down for now. By the weekend, every state in the lower 48 could see below average temperatures. Well, the only area that may still be on the warmer side of normal, South Florida. Enjoy. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Taking a live look downtown at Lexington, you can see some of the snow flurries we've been looking at for about the past hour. Now let's take a look at the numbers. Today we've been seeing a high of 37, low of 30, with barometric pressure sitting at 30 and 1/1500 inches of mercury. Wind speeds at 9 miles an hour and humidity sitting around 98%. Taking a look at the local radar, as you can see to the north, we're looking at a little more snow with the lower temperatures, and as you move farther south, it turns to rain. Taking a look at the surrounding area, currently in Lexington, it's 37 degrees and cloudy. Buena Vista also 37 degrees and cloudy, with rain mixed with snow coming in there as well. Moving south to Lynchburg, 37 and rainy. Stanton and Charlottesville looking a little colder at 32 and 33 respectively, and seeing some snowfall there. Moving west to Covington, it's 38 and rainy, and in Roanoke, 39 and rainy. Taking a look ahead at next week, Friday we're going to be seeing cloudy skies with a high of 37, low of 32. On Saturday, a high of 37, low of 34, with the possibility of some snow mixed in with those rain showers. Moving into Sunday, we'll be seeing some relatively warmer temperatures with a high of 50, low of 34. Moving into Monday, high of 38, low of 31 with continuing rain. And on Tuesday, a high of 43 and a low of 26 with the possibility of snow as temperatures fall. That's all for weather. Stay safe out there.
Coming up next on the Rockbridge Report, I'll give you schedules for teams returning to play, and then an update on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. Welcome back to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Sean Lee, and it's time to talk about sports. W&L sports are set to return. Washington and Lee women's basketball was the first team to return, and they beat Randolph 68-41 on Tuesday. Senior Aaron Hughes led the team with 21 points and 6 rebounds. The men's team plays today at Roanoke. And the football team announced that they will have a spring schedule. Their first game will be at home on February 26th versus Shenandoah University. And this weekend, the men's and women's swimming team will have an inter-squad meet at home. For many swimmers, it will be their first time in the pool in a competitive setting in almost a year. And at the Division I level, the 9th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers defeated Georgia Tech last night 57-49. Trey Murphy led the team with 18 points and 5 rebounds. The team moves to 10-1 in ACC play. They will play an unranked UNC team this weekend in Charlottesville. And in what looks to be an episode of Groundhog Day once again, last night LeBron James led the Lakers to a hard-fought 114-113 overtime victory over the Oklahoma City Thunder. This was the Lakers' 3rd consecutive overtime win this week, as the defending champs improved to an NBA best 20-6. Tonight, 2 of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors, will play at 7:30 in Boston. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its 2021 nominees. 16 artists or bands are on the list, including Mary J. Blige, Kate Bush, LL Cool J, The Foo Fighters, The Go-Go's, Dionne Warwick, Jay-Z, Carole King, Rage Against the Machine, and Tina Turner. To be eligible, the nominee must have released their first commercial recording at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May, and the public can participate in the induction process. Through April 30th, fans can vote every day on the Hall of Fame's website or at its museum in Cleveland, Ohio. The top 5 artists selected by voters will be tallied along other ballots to pick the inductees. They will be honored during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony in the fall. And Valentine's Day is this weekend, and it is expected to look a lot different this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. CNN's Mary Maloney explains.
Valentine's Day 2021 isn't canceled, but the pandemic is impacting how people celebrate this year.
A lot of people actually are choosing to dial it back a little bit in order to ramp up their savings after all the financial chaos that 2020 caused.
A Lending Tree survey found nearly 40% of Americans plan to skip celebrating to save money, and 10% of that group has not skipped before. 59% of surveyed women say they wouldn't care, compared to 41% of men. One financial expert says this is a great time to reset expectations and communicate if you plan to scale back.
So if you usually set a budget of $100 to spend on each other on Valentine's Day, and you need to dial it back to $50 or $25, it's okay, just talk about it.
Most surveyed women who did plan to give gifts said they plan to spend about $94. Meanwhile, most surveyed men said they plan to spend $181.
A lot of people are choosing to go all in order to kind of make up for how crummy 2020 was and how many things they had to miss out on.
Here's a tip to lower your spending. Create instead of buy. Make a special homemade dinner, write a poem, or paint something. And another way to save? Give your significant other a break.
It may not be the sexiest gift you'll ever give, but giving your partner a break from doing the yard work or some sort of household chore.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mary Maloney.
That's all for today's Rockbridge Report. You can stay up to date with all of our latest news on our website at rockbridgereport.wlu.edu. Tune in next Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. for our weekly live news update. Thanks for watching.